Another new squad coming out for the Necrons today. It looks like we've got a Cryptek warband with 3 new miniatures, an upgrade sprue for some Necron elites, and potentially even a value saving for building a Necron army. Hello and welcome back to Warspecs Tactics, where today we're talking about the new Necron Hierotek Circle, a Cryptek warband that's going to be coming out as part of Games Workshop's Kill Team releases, but will almost certainly get its full-fledged datasheet for Warhammer 40k in time. I think it's pretty good fun to see another new Necron release. They did of course get an enormously generous amount of stuff towards the start of the edition, but that has meant that there's really quite a lot of Necron players out there at the moment, so I do suspect that new models like this are going to be fairly well received. The Necron Cryptek squad are going to be coming out as part of this Kill Team Shadowvaults set. Games Workshop does have a bit of a pattern with how they release these kill teams at the moment. First up, they come in a versus box against another faction with some terrain bundled in, then they get an individual release, and somewhere along the way they pick up a 40k datasheet to allow you to use any new bits of war gear in the big 40k game as well as in Kill Team. Kill Team Shadowvaults is continuing on their Into the Dark series set aboard a Space Hulk, close quarters fighting rules that seem to be farmed out to the rest of 40k now, and it looks like the miniatures inside it will be some new and shiny Guard Kazakin that we've already talked about, but interestingly also a new Necron Cryptek led squad that seems to be an interesting hybrid unit, combining a couple of old kits with some new models. Besides that, they've got a bunch of the Into the Dark style Kill Team Space Hulk walls, plus an extra couple of bits that I believe that we haven't had before, including this heavy bolter turret and this great big servo cutter type thing, though I must admit maybe not the most exciting things if you're mainly looking at this for the Necrons. I'd guess that the box set is probably going to be £105 or $170 on release, kind of similar to Kill Team Chalnath. It might be a bit more than that or a bit less, you never quite know with Games Workshop's prices, but something like that seems likely. I think it'll be less than Into the Dark as it doesn't come with the big rulebook. They'll have this on sale for a while until it sells out, then they'll follow it up with the Kill Team released individually, which might be a bit more handy if you actually want to get your hands on the Necron models, if you don't want to pay lightly inflated prices from eBay scalpers. To be honest though, I guess with Kazakin in the same box there might at least be a small chance that the price of these won't be quite as high. I feel like a lot of people are going to be wanting to get their hands on the Kazakin, and it might push the value of these down just a little bit. In any case, getting on to the Necrons themselves, the unit is called the Hierotek Circle, an interesting little shadowy mixed unit that represents a Cryptek and their retinue, and a bit of a departure from the normal Necron way of doing things, where really quite a lot of the models look rather regimented and all the same. These guys have got a bit more of a mixed unit with their own personalities going on. For some reason they haven't shown any pictures of the entire squad all ranked up together, but it looks like it's the retinue of a Cryptek Technomancer, that one just being represented by the current model with no changes. It looks like he comes bundled with a current squad of the 5 Immortals or Death Marks. They don't appear to be new sculpts for the actual models themselves, and you can see at least 4 of them in the Shadowvaults promotion pick. My guess might be that the last Death Mark might be obscured behind terrain or something. Those 2 kits look like they're bundled with an extra sprue. I think that the extra sprue will build these 3 new models, basically an Apprentech mini Cryptek, 2 alternative plasma sites for helping out the squad in different ways, and then also have upgrades for the Immortals and Death Marks. It looks like the idea is that you build one of the Immortals as an Immortal Despotek, seeming to be a mini character kind of like the Royal Warden. He's got some more blingy parts, and also the Death Marks look like they've got some alternate head swaps, which do look pretty cool. Might just be an aesthetic upgrade, might represent some sort of augmentation. Should be 9 models in the unit overall if I'm right. Going through the models one by one, first up we have the Technomancer, who does appear to be just the exact same as the normal one. I do quite like what they've done with the paint scheme for him though, he is looking very snazzy. Perhaps the most interesting thing about his inclusion is that the eventual kit release might actually wind up constituting a bit of a discount for getting him if you did want to get some Immortals as well. The Technomancer himself is £21 or $35 to buy individually, the Immortals are currently £26 or $42. Whereas most of the kill teams they've released have been at a maximal price of around about £40 or $65. It might mean that this could actually be a useful saving for Necron players if they did wind up wanting to get both kits, and also potentially getting those fun extra models thrown in, the plasma sites and the Apprentech. Until we know the price though, we won't know whether that's the case. I think it's certainly one to keep an eye on the price of though. Could be a useful little mini discount within the Necron range if it does happen to be reasonably costed. Going through the other models, first up we have the Apprentech Cryptek in training. A fairly simplistic little Necron Cryptek helper. I think his hunched over look does make him feel like a bit of an assistant, say to Dr. Frankenstein. Maybe he's the Igor of the Necrons, maybe. Based on the Crypteks, he's probably not going to be all that much use in combat or anything, but he might well be able to help with the Cryptek's repairs or something. Otherwise, we've got a couple of plasmacytes as well. These are called the Plasmacyte Reanimator, the one on the left, or the Plasmacyte Accelerator. The Reanimator one has a little glowy orb type thing that looks very similar to the Cryptek Reanimator's one. Seems like it will give a unit-wide buff to reanimation protocols of some sort, whether or not it's a one-time thing or a permanent ability while it lives. The Accelerator's perched on a big jutting out bit of terrain. I'd guess that he maybe might give a speed boost out. Could be something to do with better weapon fire though. I wonder whether or not he might share any sort of similar game mechanics to the current Plasmacyte for the Scorpet Destroyers, maybe taking a risk for extra damage. I'd guess that unlike the other Plasmacytes, they'll probably just be usable as part of the main unit, and it could make for a fun hybrid type squad for 40k purposes. I'm sure they'll have fun things to do in Kill Team though. Finally, last but not least, we have the Immortal Despotek. He's the guy on the bottom right, and seems to have quite a few similar vibes to that Royal Warden that they brought out during Indomitus. A bit of a more fancy chestplate, head, some back veins, and he also seems to have some sort of little metallic cloak going along, tied to his right arm. Looks like that Gauss blaster is also augmented in some way. Looks like it's got a big power cord trailing out of the back of it to somewhere on the model's back. For the most part, I think it looks pretty good, maybe with the slight exception of that cape. It just feels like it's maybe a little bit awkward and tacked on to me, compared with the rest of the bits which sort of look like they make sense. I'd be interested to see what sort of rules he gets. If he just wanted to get the squad and use him as a Royal Warden or something though, it looks like he'd fit the bill very well. Besides that, they also had a couple of pictures with some death marks with alternate heads as well. This guy's acquired too many eyes and looks kind of similar to the Hexmark Destroyer. Pretty good fun to have some different aesthetic choices for them. Always good to have a bit more customizability. So anyway, let me know what you make of this slightly odd and hybrid Necron kill team. I'd say it's perhaps a little bit less interesting than having an entire new squad with completely new models, but a bit more interesting than maybe some of the releases, say the Phobos Space Marines or the Tau Pathfinders who just got an upgrade sprue with some fairly minimal aesthetic differences. At least they do have a few actual different models here. If Games Workshop does come out with some 40k rules for them, I'll certainly cover them here on the channel, so feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics if you'd like to see that. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics has a Patreon page as well, which you can find linked down in the video description if you're interested. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you or you'd just like to help support, then the link is down in the video description. In any case, an enormous thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.